Welcome to Bold Moves Radio. The show is Prudent Woman with myself, RHULANI BALOYI. You are most welcome and would like to say thank you for joining us once more. And all of you who are joining us for the first time. This is Prudent Woman on Bold Moves Radio. It's a show where we talk on any issue that affects women in any issue that you can think of that will empower a woman to be a woman who takes intentional decisions, a woman who looks after her family and her loved ones. You are most welcome, and all of you who are joining us on Facebook, who would like to remind you that will be migrating from Facebook. We will only be found on YouTube in the next coming month. So all of you would like to invite you, go and join us on our YouTube channel. It's still Bold Moves Radio. Please subscribe once you are there so that you do not miss anything, because Bold Moves Radio has got quite a number of programs that will bring out to you on a daily basis from Monday up until Sunday. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I am going to have a great time with you, and I would like to invite you, please drop down your comments, your questions on the comment section. And all of you who are joining us through the streaming, you are welcome to send us questions on 081 358 8745. As we promised you last week, that this week we're going to be starting a series on financial management. Yes, of course, tonight we are here with Ingrid Harris. She's a lady who is in the financial services industry. She's a consultant, and I would like to believe through the wealth of information that she has tonight, she will help us as we spark this conversation. This conversation comes about because we realize that on a daily basis, all of us, and some of you, even now that you are listening to me, you are busy working, trying to get more of this thing that is called money. But unfortunately, from the educational background and even our background, most especially as Africans, we were not taught on how to make sure that this resource, money, can work for us, how we can make sure that this resource that is called money can buy us soft life. I always am of the belief that says, to be wealthy is not to have lots and lots of money, but is to know how to use this resource in order to get a soft life. It is how to make this resource in order for you to have a peace of mind. So we are here tonight. We're going to have a great conversation with Ingrid. We're going to be talking on money. And this is one of our next coming series. So tonight, our focus is just to have a general talk on how to work around this issue called resource money. Ingrid, may you please greet our audience, and would like to say thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Mrs. Baloyi and the team. It's such an honor to be here this afternoon with you, and I'm looking forward to actually imparting whatever wealth I have with the rest of the team and your audience.
Thank you so much, Ingrid. We trust that we're going to learn a lot from you tonight as a person who is in the financial services industry. With us, a lay person on the street, when they talk finances, you think it's a huge thing. When they talk the bank, you are even inferior when you go to the bank, You think these are, some big people. You cannot say anything. All you do, you are just in the receiving end. But tonight, ladies, I would like to invite you. Let us listen. Send your questions. We're going to be talking money. Ingrid, I know this thing, money, needs you to have a plan. If you just receive it without a plan, in my culture, they say, malia tsutsuma. It means the money can run away from you when you don't have a plan. I would just like to ask you, as an to open the discussion. What will be the importance of having a plan? Is it important to have a plan for money, or it's something that should just happen? You should just receive it and spend it.
Such a powerful question, and such a loaded one as well. I think when we talk about budgets and finance, I think we always think spreadsheets and financial advisors and banks, and we think that is the premise of of, where to start if we talk about money. But I just want us to actually step back and go to something that we actually all, I think we all obviously come from different backgrounds. I think your beliefs, obviously, if it comes to money, is completely different from what mine is. And if I talk about a retirement plan and what your version of a retirement plan is totally different. But I think one thing that obviously can make us all start from one foundation is if we will go back to what the word says. In Habakkuk 2, verse 2, it says, state whatever your vision is, put it down on paper, make it plain. And I think that was such a beautiful message to me when I read it for the first time, because it reminded me what is important. And if you don't have a vision for your budget, where is it going to end up? And the most important thing, obviously, let God guide you. And the minute when you start putting down your vision for your money, I think sometimes, I think we are brought up in this manner. We're thinking, people always say, oh, I got paid on the 30th and the first I'm broke already. And I think it's so imperative for us to stop using such language, because, we've got kids and we've got loved ones who's looking for inspiration and people who actually to look up to. But going back to what I said regarding the vision, what is your vision when we talk about money? When we think about your salary that you're getting every month, what is your vision moving forward? And I think that is the most important place to start, because once you start there and you obviously partner with God, He's going to make sure that you get most messages like what we have today. Even, partner with financial advisors, even have someone come into your space to actually hold your hand and, walk the journey with you. But if you don't have a clear vision, then as you just said, your pockets will have holes, and you actually wouldn't even know, when you do get wealthy, you won't even know that you are wealthy. And I think it's interesting, when we plan for a holiday. So you've got a thought of, I'm planning for a holiday in December. You're thinking about your holiday, already have an idea of where you're going to go, in case the weather is going to be bad, in case the weather is going to be good, what you're going to pack, what outfit, in case you go out. You've got all of these things planned, and you're thinking about this holiday and this adventure, and you're looking forward to it, right? And obviously now you're sitting right here where I am now. I'm sitting in Polokwane and I'm thinking about this in December, but I'm already like feeling and envisioning this beautiful holiday that I am planning. But I think the reality is that I'm here now. I haven't put anything, the holiday's not here. I'm right here, but I'm thinking about my holiday. Why are we not thinking about our budget in a similar way? And I would impart on each and every person who's listening today, when you are sitting with your financial advisor, when you're sitting with your spouse, when you're sitting with your family members, go back to the drawing board and think about, let's create a vision. Let's start at the base. And by the time you step into your financial advisor's room, you make it so much easier for him, because now he can live your vision with you, and he will just add into your travel bag wherever you go. So from a discipline perspective, I think that is one of the things that I think we need to zoom in on, to actually just say, do it at home. I think we are so blessed to have knowledge these days. We've got the internet. I take my hat off for my parents. I don't know how they went through life, because I mean, yeah, without Google, sure. I don't even know how they did half of the things that we are privy to today. But I think the beauty of what we have is we've got knowledge. I mean, when you go on a holiday, you'll even buy a travel guide, and you will read up. You will read up about languages. Why do we not do the same if we think about our budget? And I want us to start getting excited when we talk about money. When we talk money, we need to get excited. We shouldn't shy away. It's always such a grudge when we talk about money. And I think this is where we as women, we obviously step in, because this is, we nurture. And where you nurture, you obviously create a nation of just growth and possibility. And I would like to urge us today, whoever is listening, yes, we're talking money, but let's go back to basics. And basics is obviously walking with what our Creator has set out for us, and that is how we need to walk.
So, what I'm hearing from you is there must be a vision.
Yeah.
And a vision can only come when your mindset is in the right direction. Because with a vision, it means you sit and say, what is it that I want out of my money? And that's very powerful, because in many a times, as you said, we should be happy when we talk about money. But I know a lot of us who are not happy. If you're getting paid on the 21st, on the 20th, you are so down, you are dreading for that time when your salary will come into your bank account. And I would like to believe it's because you don't have a vision. You've got nothing to look forward to. And in the lack of vision, then there starts confusion.
Of course.
And that's where confusion starts. You find yourself in having a lot of commitments. And when your money comes, already it's taken away. And a vision needs a strategy for you to actually action it. I want us to move to the next one, to say a strategy. Most of us, in terms of the curriculum of our country, it's something that we're still fighting for, to say, why don't we have financial management? Because each and every parent is saying, go to school to my child, because you will get a good job. You can start a good company. But in that very curriculum, there is no way where you are taught about this thing that you're supposed to be working for. So I want us to move to the next stage, to say, we know nothing about this. It's just like all of us, we know about you being healthy, it's when you're not sick. But we know nothing about the person, the physiology of a person. So we need a doctor. I want us to talk about financial advisors. I heard you talking about them. And I know in most of us, we have this preconceived idea to think, I don't need a financial advisor if I don't owe. I don't need a financial advisor if I have a funeral cover. But I have observed, and throughout my preparation for this session, I have noticed that you need a financial advisor to give you a strategy on how now to action that vision of yours that you're talking about.
Such an important thing. I don't know why we don't utilize this gift that we have. I mean, financial advisors are regulated, I mean, they come with a wealth of information, and I wish we would actually just step into that wealth of information that they have. It's so underutilized, and I see it across board, but it's so true what you're saying. We go to a doctor, obviously that particular support, what a doctor can give us, because that's a professional. Why don't we tap into a financial advisor? And I always say, with the financial advisors that I work with, one thing that financial advisors do is that they create hope. So now picture yourself, you're stepping into a doctor's office. Doctor says to you, you know what, you're not so great. You step out there being cautious, because now obviously you need to take a bit of meds and you're a bit concerned about your health and about your future. The beauty of stepping into a financial advisor's office is that he gives you hope for tomorrow, because while you were talking about your vision, he's outlining your vision for you, and he's showing you the things that you didn't think about. For you to obviously achieve that particular vision, let's consider, if this happened, if this actually happens in your life, how would we still be able to actually get to your vision that you have, what is important for you and your legacy? And that is what a financial advisor does. Is, first of all, he gives hope. He gives hope. And I promise you, never in my life have I ever stepped out of a financial advisor's office, and even if I decided, whatever he gave me, solution he gave me that particular day, even if I said, I'm not going to take this today, but guess what, when I jump in my car, I will think about it. I will think about the fact that he mentioned this, and this is important to me. So now I know I need to put that in my travel kit to obviously go in, for me to be able to get to my vision. So the beautiful thing from a financial advisor is the fact that they obviously lay out a plan for you. They take your vision and they say, okay, this is what you have. This is where you want to go. Let's walk back. And he's the person who's obviously going to walk the journey with you. And he will outline things that you didn't think about, things that you didn't know, from a financial perspective, from an investment perspective, from a, what you can consider from an education perspective for your kids. And he will give you solutions for you to think about. I don't have to put this money in under the mattress. I don't have to put money away. He's actually giving you a solution for, if something happens, you are sorted. I'm giving you a plan right now that you don't have to worry. But if this pitfall comes in your way, your family and you have got security, because we all know we can't predict our future, but all we can do is the knowledge and the wisdom that we have right now, make the best of the time that we have. And especially when you've got kids, I mean, that's our heartbeat. That's the reason we wake up every morning. We obviously, our money goes there. I always say my kids are my boss. They tell me what I'm going to do with my money and where I'm when I'm going to be sleeping that night. But that's why we wake up every morning, to obviously be able to give them this particular legacy. And a financial advisor will give you a beautiful way to break it down, to actually give to speak to all of those relevant areas in your life. And I think from a comfort perspective, you will go to sleep knowing that your things are in place.
Yeah, I would like us to go on an ad break. When we come back, I want to request you, Ingrid, to talk on the regulations, because I see most of us, the reason sometimes we don't use them is the misconceptions we have around them, so that one can understand that they are covered legally in terms of the support that they're supposed to receive from the financial advisors, because they have got regulations that they must always comply with. So I'd like us to go on an ad break. When we come back, we shall expand on it.
Okay.
Welcome to Prudent Woman. It's Bold Moves Radio with you, with myself, RHULANI BALOYI, and I have with me Ingrid Harris. She is from the financial services sector. She's a consultant in the financial services. We are talking about money. Before we went on an ad break, Ingrid, we were talking about the use of a financial advisor. And you mentioned something very important, the regulations of financial services advisors. And I'm aware that most of us, we tend not to use them, because you say, you've had one who will say, what if they take my money away? I just want you to expand on those type of regulations, so that people are aware that they have got regulations that have covered them. And most of these financial advisors, I know that they've got what will I call them? What do you call them? An insurance, for a lack of a better word, that will cover them in a case where something goes wrong with a client. Yeah, so I'd like you to talk to us about the regulations of financial services, financial advisors.
I think the financial service industry is highly regulated, and as a financial advisor, you don't just become a financial advisor by just ticking one box and voila, you're a financial advisor. There's certain from a qualification perspective, and obviously from a regulation perspective, things that they need to adhere to for them to say, okay, I will abide by those. And even while they are busy in the practice. So obviously not to get too technical, but just while they are in the practice, when they sit with their client, there are certain steps that they follow, for instance, where they've got, where they will ask you about your needs, and they will sit, they won't just give you a particular thing. So just an example, you say to your financial advisor, I actually just want a retirement annuity. I don't want anything else. But it's his responsibility to have that full discussion with you. So he will ask you a lot of things. And I've seen clients don't have time for that. They don't want to go into the detail. But because he's regulated and it's his responsibility to have that conversation with you, he will bring that to your attention just for you to be aware. And even that particular day, if you are just focusing on retirement annuity, starting a retirement annuity, he will obviously go into the depth of explaining to you what a retirement annuity is and the process following thereof. He will also show you, obviously, from a commission perspective, the money that he will be getting, and also the type of client that he will be, the client, the company that he's partnering with. He also won't just push you to a particular client. He will give an array of quotations and say, listen, these are the quotations that I've obviously requested. Which one? This one actually, would speaks more to your need. Yes, I understand. This one is got a lot of benefits, but I know this is your particular need, and I guess that's why we are blessed to have so many other options in the market. And I know a lot of clients, they would obviously say, no, I'll go through a call center. And the beauty of having a financial advisor is that you pick up the phone and the financial advisor will fight your fight for you. You don't have to go through a call center and obviously having to trying to go back to a conversation and say, but actually on the document it stated that. And I think that is the one comfort that a financial advisor gives, because they are regulated and they obviously knows what they are doing in the office in the industry. And even after he's done the sell, he also needs to he's been audited, and those are things that he needs to keep in place. And even at the passing of a client, those are still things that is being audited, because we need to make sure that the client's wishes were actually outlived as per the contract. So it's not just monkey business. It's not just you tick a box and you say, okay, I want this. I always say it's not a tuck shop. This is not a tuck shop.
And it's so important for us to understand how they play a role in our lives, financial advisors, because as we said, we're talking about money. We want to be intentional about our monies. You said the first step is to have a vision, and now we agree. A financial advisor is a strategist who comes in and assists us on how to action our vision, how to make sure that we make a realization of our vision. But then now the financial advisor, as you're putting it rightly, to say they are there to listen to you, to advise you, but they will not take decisions on your behalf. My understanding is that more of the responsibility still lies with you
100%.
as a person. So you still have to make that choice. You still have to be disciplined. You still have to have a good mindset towards your money. One thing that beats us women, I know us women mostly, it's making use of a budget. And everywhere, whether you listen to a billionaire, everyone who has made it, not those who have inherited, but those who have worked for their money. And maybe even the ones who have inherited, who have kept their inheritance, because you can inherit and lose everything. They will say they always follow a budget. Even government always follows a budget. We hear someone being charged for having spent outside the budget, which means it doesn't matter how much money you receive. A budget is very important. Maybe coming from you, a financial guru, what will be the importance of a budget in one's life in order to become that which they wish to be when you look at their finances?
Sure. It's as you said, from a woman's perspective, it's that struggle between I want to need certain things, but I think it's so simple, but yet not done. And I mean, if we need to go back to basics, as I said, you write down, you say, how much am I earning? What is my living expenses? Out of my living expenses, is it over and above is it over my income that I'm earning, or is there something that I can still play with? What am I actually spending at that point? And sometimes we find ourselves in the juggle of wanting to do a side hustle, but guess what? The mistakes that you're doing with your actual salary, you're going to do exactly the same mistake with your side hustle. So it's so important to obviously break down, to say, this is my assets, this is my liabilities, what is my long-term vision? If I'm buying a car, why am I buying it? Obviously we want nice things, but is it actually feasible according to what your actual your budget is currently, you maybe need to sit back and think about that a little bit deeper. And just an example, for instance, I've got a friend whose child did first year at varsity, and he had a little Atos, and he says, "Mommy, the Atos is, I'm not getting any attention from the girls."
Yeah.
And the mommy said, "You know what? You need to come with a more viable approach than saying to me, it does, you don't get any attention from the ladies."
Yeah.
And he came back the second year and he says, "You know what? I've seen an opportunity in here. Instead of giving me an Atos, can we trade that in and me have a bucky? I don't care what bucky." Can be you can obviously get me a double cab, he said, but whatever bucky, because I've seen the opportunity. Students are under, they just start, they're unhappy with their accommodation, they move, there's so much influx. There's always, even in holiday time, there's an opportunity for people needing chance to move their things. And I've seen that opportunity, and basically making that particular purchase. So she had to go back into her budget and say, this is my expenses, and is this something that I can actually make a difference in my world? And then you obviously start aligning to break it down. But if you are not clear, you will always work from the hand to the mouth, and you'll always be in a complete cycle, and not actually, and you're blaming the world. And guess what? You are blaming your job. You are blaming, obviously, going, trying to find a new opportunity, but you are not even actually working with what you've got. And I mean, the word also says, I will meet you where you are, and if you appreciate where you are, guess what? I can give you more.
Yes.
I can give you more. And the beauty of, obviously, the Lord that we serve is He doesn't operate from a 1 + 1 = 2. He can give you much more. But it starts with you obviously being clear with your actual budget of saying, what do I have? Where am I wasting? What is my, obviously school fees are non-negotiable. But also sometimes with that, you need to ask yourself,
can I afford the school that I'm desiring to take
100%. Life change, things happen. And I guess that's why I also urge, and especially from a woman's perspective, we sometimes sit back and we obviously give our husbands that range to say, you know your thing. And he knows. But at the same time, if daddy's not there anymore, I've seen so many women, when the husband was the breadwinner, and husband's not there, but they were never involved in having that conversation about the finances. And it's obviously also because of how we were brought up. It's a respect thing, and then what happens to the vision that we had for our kids from an education perspective? We actually can't outlive that. And that's why I'm saying we need to break those barriers of saying, we need to have a conversation from me and husband, me as a family. We need to have that conversation to say, what is our vision for our family? Because then we're going to be excited to actually go to a financial plan and have this conversation together. But now it is, no, I don't want to know. I want to submit. I don't, and it's and I say, if I don't know, I can't support you. I can't know that you're going through a difficult time. I can't actually know that you didn't pay a policy. I need to know that those things are paid. But if we don't walk that journey,
talk about it.
We don't talk about it. But it's usually, and when we talk about budgets, it's your budget is my budget. He does him, I do me. But we need to actually sit together and talk about it.
Synchronization.
We need to synchronize it, and have that talk together. And I think it's so important for us to have that talk, because I think that is the biggest gap. Because as women, we are superwomen. We want to do everything,
And most of the time, Ingrid, what I've seen is with what you are saying, women, we tend to have high demands from our husband, and it tends to affect the family relations. And at times you find that it's because we're not having this conversation. You just desiring to have your child at this school, and you don't know what is it that you are making. What is it? What are the resources that are before you, to plan around them. So I think it's very important to have this discussion. But I also believe this discussion should not end with you and the husband. The importance of taking it to the children, because we are raising them up. And that's the area that we failed. We tend to leave them out and want to hope that when they reach our age, when now they've got families, they will be able to do it. But we did not teach them. We've been teaching them about any other thing, but not money. I would like us to take an ad break. When we come back, let us talk about that. How do we bring in our children to understand the use of money and how to manage it?
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is. Streaming 24/7. 24/7.
Bold Moves Radio.
Bold Moves Radio.
On Facebook, please migrate to YouTube. We will be migrating fully from YouTube. You will not find us on YouTube on Facebook, sorry. So please go and listen to us on YouTube. On YouTube, it's still Bold Moves Radio. Search for us, saying Bold Moves Radio. And once you found us, please subscribe so that you don't miss a whole lot of exciting shows that we have throughout the week. From Monday until Sunday, we've got quite a number of exciting topics that we're talking on. We've got prayer. So please, you are welcome to join us. Yes, this afternoon I have my guest, Ingrid. And thank you so much. We are learning a lot from you. Before we went on an ad break, we were talking on budgets. And we agreed that it's a conversation that needs to happen in any family. But we also agree as prudent women that as prudent women, we are there to make sure that our loved ones are taught many things so that as they grow, they can be proud of themselves, they can be successful. It's only a person who's equipped with knowledge can be able to make it in life. And we agreed that, one thing that we're guilty of is that we don't teach our children issues of money. We think we must hide it, You must not tell your children because they will demand more. But I believe it is very important to take them along for them to understand how this thing money is used, how this thing money is managed. So the importance of bringing them into the discussion as young as they are.
So funny what you say. So true what you're saying now. It's, I think we always go with the trend or the wording that says knowledge is power. But now knowledge without action is nothing. You've got that power, but you're actually doing nothing with it, And I think we should make it as practical as possible. And as Naleti was saying, young individuals or young entrepreneurs or people going into the industry, they've got absolutely no idea of how to actually manage money, and it's scary. It's scary because these are people who's going to be having kids one day, and that is what's going to be imparted on them. I think from a practicality perspective, I guess the question is, how do we bring it back into our families? And it's interesting. The one day I was driving, and so I always ask my kids when they get into the car, I ask them, share with me what worked for you this today. What worked for you? What worked for you? What didn't work? And my daughter says, and she shares with me, and she tells me her day, and she says to me, Mommy, what worked for you today? And I looked at her. I said, okay, we're having this conversation now. And I said, no, I had a good business day, She said to me, what's business, Mommy? And it took me, because then I had to think about, how do I tell a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old at that point, what is business?
Yes.
And then I explained to her, I do certain work for certain people, and then they give me money because of the work that I've done. And she says, okay, so now, and then what? And I said, then there's a money box. So I said, and then whatever I do, there goes money in the money box. So every morning she will ask me, what is in that money box, And I literally had to show her, the dynamic of you do, you get. That's the first principle. But also in that is what is important. Because now you just think there's money in the money box. Guess what? Mommy needs to do certain things. There's obviously importance of paying bills, of paying school fees and things like that. And then I said to them, I actually brought it back to them. I said, what is it that you really want? What is it that you really want? You want to play, you want to do ballet? You want to do this? How can you help Mommy to manage this? Because now, remember this, because if you are actually just squandering this training that you're doing, this is money out of this money box. And guess what? And I threw the money back out. And then she came back and she said, actually, you don't have to throw, I just want to do this one thing. And I will do my best in that one. But at the same time, she also asked, what can I do? What can I do at this age to actually help you in these areas? And I think If you obviously give them tasks and say, and you should see them when they get excited. I mean, I've got toddlers, got small kids, and they get excited about, seeing money grow.
Yeah.
And once that money has grown, do we just spend it? And I ask them, what is your vision? What is it that you really want? And once they can actually buy that, you should see how excited they are. And they will tell the world about, they've acquired this one thing. And I guess, obviously instilling that value in them, I can see how excited, and then they'll ask me, what are we doing next? What are we doing next? And it goes the same about, that is, let's talk about fasting. Tithing, for instance. Their money box. You need to give your 10th.
Yes.
You need to give your 10th. And guess what? When stuff happens in their life, they would say, Mommy, they say, Mommy, it's because I've given my 10th. God has seen me. He's seen that I've given. And I think, imparting that, seeing the excitement, I know that is going to be a belief that, or something that they're going to impart on their kids moving forward. And those are things that we obviously don't talk about, but it starts there. It's not just my money. They need to understand that Mommy and Daddy go out, and we need to have that barriers.
I love the way you're putting it, because what I'm getting from you, it's the discussion or the conversation on money when it comes to our children is totally different to when we're talking to our spouses. You are able to reduce it to their level. The way you've put it is so perfect, because I would like to believe someone was thinking, how do I now talk to my children about money? Does it mean I must tell my children, I don't have enough money? Give all these problems, when we're talking to our spouses. It's like, hey, the money is not enough, what? But the way you have put it, you are teaching the very same principles, but in a language which is more clearer, more comfortable, simplified with the children, and they're able to receive it, and it does not bring in that negative connotations. You remember when we were starting with the talk, we said when we talk money, we become so angry.
Yeah.
But I love the way you've put it, and I like to believe, Prudent Woman, you're getting what she's teaching us. It is about having a conversation, but be able to reduce it to the level of the people that you're talking to. But also, very important, the principles around money. I love it when you talk about tithing. And we tend to think when a child is still young, there's no need for them to set aside something. But that is the cornerstone of financial management. If you are a born-again Christian, you need to have to work around principles, and those principles can only work when you were given 50 cents, you understood that you must set aside 5 cents, so that when you start working, like the one that was just told us, she started working and you are paid thousands, it becomes simpler because you have seen this money growing. You've grown with it. And that's where we see, even with adults, we see those who all of a sudden get contracts of millions. They've never handled millions, and they go AWOL, they make a mess of themselves because they were not taught these principles, how the money grows, how you take care of the money. Thank you so much, Ingrid. I trust that our listeners are enjoying and learning a lot. Now I want us to come to something that is, most of us have got different, I also have my own understanding around it, but that's something called emergency fund. We just hear about it. You spoke about today having Mr. Google. It brought a whole lot of things. Everything brings in good things, but also there are negative things attached to it. So we're talking on emergency funds. Most of us will say, no, I don't need to set aside an emergency fund because I've went to Google and went through all the big banks and find that I can, they can give me so much
Sure. Yeah.
in a case of emergency. And forgetting that after that emergency has happened and I've tried to elevate it, I still need to repay that money. What can you say around the issue of having an emergency fund?
Yeah. Emergency fund is a non-negotiable because life happens. And the assumption that we can go to a bank and get a loan, it's just basically giving someone else the power of what you actually have worked in your budget. Because you've taken out a loan, but you're they're bargaining that you are paying that loan. So you obviously, they're making something out of it. So the longer you're paying this loan, they are obviously, there's something. So why pay something that you can actually just put away? So from an emergency fund perspective, the question is, how much do I put away? What is important? Because I mean, the emergency for me versus for you is totally different. But it's so important for people to be clear on what do you constitute as an emergency. So now today my hair is not good and I'm like, you know what? I need a wig. Does that mean that I can just go to the shop and I've got money in my emergency fund? That is an emergency for me, right?
Yes.
But the reality is an emergency fund is basically where there is no other alternative. So if you say in a typical example, I'm making an example with my friend now whose child went to varsity. When they went for second years, they realized that there's a certain fee that they didn't account for. So there's no financial, they obviously couldn't have worked it in the yearly planning. So where do you get that money from? The emergency fund needs to obviously, that money needs to come from there. When you maybe have a car accident, obviously the insurance pays for your car, but the access money, where do you get that access money? The emergency fund needs to come through that. That is where there is no actual insurance product that can substitute that amount, that money that is paid by the emergency fund. That is when you have an emergency fund. And obviously for everyone it's different. But the rule of thumb is usually at least 3 months your living allowance you need to be able to put away, because obviously everyone's got different needs. But or if you, for instance, say, I'm not anticipating an emergency this year, that will at least safeguard you for in case. But people get confused between emergency fund, savings, investments. It's not the same. We use it interchangeably. Emergency fund, as I said, that is for emergency. When I've got an issue, so also when you speak to your financial advisor or to the bank or wherever you decide to put your emergency fund, you need to be able to access that money now. Not tomorrow, not in 30 days, not in 2 weeks. I want that money right now because it's an emergency, right? That is the intention of an emergency fund. And when we talk about savings, it's exactly what it says. I save my 1,000 Rand for a particular vision or for a particular goal. And usually it's usually a short-term goal, right? I say things for 12 months. I'm saving this amount of money for a holiday. The 1,000 Rand that you're putting in, a savings pocket usually have not so much, the growth is not so much, because the intention is it's just to preserve your money.
Yes.
Yes, there's a little bit of growth, but you're not going to be looking at the growth the whole time, because you are just saying, I want some help with preserving my money. When we talk about investments, that is obviously when we talk about we're buying assets. And that is where you are saying, I'm buying assets to see a return. You're seeing a return on investment. And that is obviously long term. And I think a lot of us, for instance, you invest for like 2 years and you say, but you know what, I feel sorry for the poor financial advisors, because then they have to explain, but
How come the money now it's less?
yeah, but the reality is, what we call compound interest. Compound interest says if you've got time, it doesn't matter if you used an Allen Gray, if you've used a whatever, doesn't matter which vehicle you've used, because you've got time, you will have growth. You should just stay consistent and stay in that particular, on that plan, because obviously when your financial advisor sat with you, you said, this is my growth appetite. This is how I want my money to grow. And he's going to say, okay, this is the vehicle that we're going to place it in. And if you just stay consistent with this vehicle will take you to the destination. And I always say, a financial advisor is almost like he's a taxi driver,
Yeah.
So I jump in your taxi as a client and you ask me, where you going? And I say, I'm going to Shishego. And on that journey, I'm going to get potholes. I'm going to, I need to go and detour, but you guess what? He's going to take me. We're going to get there. Don't stop in the middle and then blame the financial advisor or what because of this. It's not because of that. It's because you stop trusting. Trust the process. At inception, when you actually started that process, there was a reason why we've chosen that fund. And that is what we call investing. So we shouldn't use the three interchangeably. It's different. Savings, investments, and emergency fund.
Thank you so much, Ingrid. You took us to the next
Oh,
level.
my apologies.
No, but that was great because you were able to show us the difference between the three. And most of us, we use them as the same. And that's why we tend not to receive the desired results, as you put it. Because you think an emergency fund, the savings and investment is one and the same thing. And you get off the road anytime but you had a vision at least. But once you have started on it, at least it's something, you are getting somewhere. I would like us to go on an ad break. When we come back, because now we have spoken about savings, we've taken time to talk about savings, investments, and emergency fund. I would like us to go into the last one, which is debts. As ladies, that is, I know that one, it affects all of us. We always have that. So let us go on an ad break. We'll be right back with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is. Streaming 24/7. 24/7.
Bold Moves Radio.
Bold Moves Radio.
Afrika nakupenda sana, oh Afrika nakupenda sana. Sana, oh Afrika nakupenda sana.
The show is Prudent Woman with myself, RHULANI BALOYI. Tonight I have a guest that's Ingrid Harris. She's from the financial services industry. And thank you so much for joining us. I trust that all of you have been with us. You have been learning a lot. And those of you who have just joined us, you joined us at the right time. Ingrid, please take us through. Is it important for us to have debt? We've been speaking about investment, savings, that's the money you have. But is it important, or will it allow me to finally have achieve my vision if I go and get a debt?
Yeah, it's a tricky one because and that's why, like when we had the conversation, we spoke about a vision, and that also ties into your vision.
Yeah.
If you take out a particular loan, or if you create debt, where does that speak into your vision? So if it doesn't feed into somewhere, then don't have it. So I know we've got people who, for instance, want to take out a loan because they're going on a holiday, or they swipe their card because they're going on a holiday. Is that speaking to your vision? Is that feasible? Because remember when you swipe your card, as I said earlier, you are basically paying someone else.
Yeah.
There is a reason why there's interest. There's a reason why you are actually, now you're going to just have something else that you are indebted to. So is it good to have debt? There's good debt and bad debt. As I gave the example earlier of obviously a friend of mine who's bought a bakkie for his son to obviously to generate a form of income. So that basically says the business that he's going to be running, he is actually paying the debt on himself, and he can obviously also generate a form of income for him while he is on varsity, on campus. So the question is that then a good debt? For me, I would say yes, because it speaks to my need. It speaks to our vision. It speaks to our goal. It's actually speaking to what the mommy's need was initially, and say, Mom, let me relieve you of this.
Yes.
Take the Atos back. It's not working for you. But so, and there is obviously people who say, yes, you need debt because, otherwise a credit provider wouldn't see you as viable. But I mean, those are things that we can always negotiate. There's no such thing as if I don't have a string of debts that they're going to say, but you know what, I'm not going to give you an overdraft because of that. Okay, so first of all, we're trying to move away from obviously using debt or overdrafts and stuff like that. But if you want to be relevant in if you want an overdraft, you don't necessarily have to have debt
Debt.
to prove that, because already just your standing of how your income is, that already would show, your how you can actually your value, that you are valuable to them. So there is good debt. It's not wise to go and swipe your card for a holiday. It's not wise to swipe your card because you need a pick me up. And I think I've had a journey of learning, of have going through the phases of getting yourself out of debt and finding yourself in there and learning and finding out, but how can I do it differently? And especially when you look at all of your debt, what is the interest, like, because if you might have a car, for instance, and because the interest that you're getting is very low, is that then a good deal for you versus where you are now? Then I would say yes, it works for you. So there is places where debt will obviously make a difference for you, but you also need to be wise about it. Ask questions. Like, think about it, pray about it, ask your financial advisor, be informed. Knowledge is power, but it's also nothing if not action is not taken accordingly. So yes, there is good debt, but swiping your card for a weave or something like that is
not a good idea.
Doesn't make sense.
And as going to a grocery shop and then I'm looking for a powder soap, I get the powder soap for 89 rands. I normally will not buy it for a 2 kg at 89 rands because I've already made my research. I know for a 2 kg powder soap, I'm likely to pay around 59, 60. So the minute it's 89, I'm question marks, But unfortunately, when it comes to debt like this, because we are talking to huge multinationals, we tend to just run into it. You don't even know how much it costs you to get this debt. And which I think, prudent women, we must start thinking about it. I think when you are saying you must apply your mind to it, you must do your research, you must ask questions, you must engage those who have got knowledge around it. It's very important because most of the time we take debt which is way too expensive. And when you talk about not being able to get debt or being able to do certain things because you've got debt, I've realized that previously, maybe you want to hire a vehicle, they will say they will not give it to you if you don't have a credit card. If you want to buy online, they were going to say they're not going to give you because you don't have a credit card. But I've realized that even these institutions have realized that other people are becoming wise. They don't go for a credit card. So there's something called a check card.
Yes.
You can buy online.
Yes.
You don't need to have a credit card. So you go to your bank and say, you, my bank, I have an account with you. I want a check card.
Yes.
Then it saves you because sometimes some of us as ladies, when you have that credit card, you become too excited. And that leads us to the last question. I see our time is gone. To say, as ladies, you were talking about us swiping for a weave. It's not a good idea. But I know, we work for this money, Ingrid. And at times I need to look,
Of course,
good for myself. Just your take on wants and needs as women. It's a need for me to have a dress when I'm going to a wedding.
of course. Of course.
Yeah, because when I have that new dress, I feel good. I walk tall,
Yes.
even if that new dress is not better than some of the dresses I have in the cupboard, but because it's new, I want it.
Of course.
Yeah. So what
No,
what will be your take
Of
on
course,
it?
it makes your heart feel good, and that's all we want.
Yes.
It goes back to what we just discussed earlier about the budget. If you have your budget and you obviously plan it out, and you've got a disposable income, obviously, you know that this is the extra money that I have. So you are going to be conscious of the extra money that you have. But if you don't have a budget, you're actually not going to know what you have.
Yes.
So if, for instance, you decide, you know what, I'm going to spoil myself, and I'm going to buy this because I really need this. There's, I mentioned earlier, there's that thing of I want to need it,
Yeah.
But then because you've got a budget, you say, you know what, because I've taken money from there, that's going to feed. I know it needs to be placed back. But because you've got a budget, you know what you're working with. You will actually go out of your way because you are clear with where your money is going to. And because it's something that you get excited about, as we spoke about earlier, the vision, you get excited about talking about your money. And remember, the less debt you have, the more money you have.
Yes.
The less debt that you're paying off, the more money you have. So that is awesome. That is an awesome thing to think about, because I think sometimes we ask ourselves, should we have debt and investment? And we can't, like, for me personally, I say finish pay your debt, because then you've got more to put away.
Yes.
There's a place for debt, right? But finish the one and then take it to the other one. But spoil yourself. Obviously, you want to feel. I mean, the more your budget is going to be clear, the more money you're going to have to spoil yourself, and also you're going to be conscious of it. It's not going to feel like a grudge purchase. And you're going to be conscious. You're not just going to buy something that you're never going to wear again, So I think it's something that we should get excited about.
Yeah.
We should get excited about.
Thank you so much, Ingrid. And I see I have a question here on Facebook. Sesi Mpule Matladiza is asking, at what age should we start teaching our children about budget? I just thought, let me just take you back so that at least let's give her a response.
Not a problem. These days at schools, they've got this thing that they call TAP.
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable with it, because then kids don't understand the form of currency. They just think they can go tap at the tuck shop. Yes.
Actually, I think our captures are trying to capture our children with that card.
Yes.
It's a credit card in a way.
Yes.
Yeah.
So at that age, you as a parent can obviously decide. But for me, I say, if they don't take the money out of the money box, then if they don't have a vision for that, then they, from the age of 5 years old, obviously when they start using money, I think that is a perfect time for them to start understanding. My 4-year-old understands the idea of tithing at this point. And when he gets something, he celebrates. He doesn't understand the value at this point, but he understands that, Daddy brought me sweets because I've done that. So I think from a young age, a toddler age, 4, 5, especially when with schools where they've got money to actually trade with, I'm not comfortable with the whole tap thing at school. I think you take the money out of the money box and you see it empty. You need to understand the currency
Then
thing.
you understand.
Yeah, that's my feeling.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ingrid. We learned a lot today with you. And thank you so much for taking time to come and teach us as prudent women. I trust that all the prudent women you have learned today, and of course, who we're talking about money now that we are using it. And I would like to invite you next week. We talk on how to make sure that as prudent women, we take decisions that will ensure that when we are not there or we are unable to do certain things for our family when it comes to money, we have put in place systems that will ensure that our families and our loved ones are taken care of. Not only that, but it can happen. Anything can happen that will take away the authority and the power that you had. So next week, please join us. Same time, same place. We will be continuing